So good morning everyone. Today we will continue with the classification of the signals. Okay. So there are several types of signals. So first one is continuous time and discrete time signals, analog and digital signals, real and complex signals, deterministic and random signals, even and odd signals, periodic and aperiodic signals, energy and power signals, and lastly causal, non-causal and anti-causal signals. So we will take up all these categories of the signals one by one. Okay. So there is a the first one is continuous time and discrete time signals. Okay. So the continuous time, as the name suggests, the signal components is the signal components sorry the signal components are continuous in nature. Say for example, if you have a thermistor, I hope every one of you knows what is a thermistor. Okay, so it is a temperature sensor. When you put up in a circuit and if you put it in a particular environment, what it does is that it senses the environmental temperature, and accordingly the circuit, it will give you an output. So that output is basically a continuous output with respect to the time, like this. Okay. Now many students, they confuse over here and they use that this signal is an analog signal. So this graph, in the y-axis you have temperature capital T and small t is the time. Okay. So I would give you a statement. Please let me know whether it is correct or not. All analog signals are continuous time signals. Is it a correct statement?
Yes, sir.
All analog signals, they are continuous time signals. Okay. So one of the student has said yes, it is true. Okay, good. Second statement is all continuous time signals are analog signals. Is this correct? Yes, I need your participation. Otherwise, I will not be able to um, uh,
No, sir.
deliver what
No,
I
sir.
want to deliver to you guys. Okay, because these are some conceptual things, and I need you to know that your concepts should be clear before we proceed further. Yeah. What about the second one?
No, I think it's no.
All continuous time signals are not analog signals. So you are saying no,
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So your statement is incorrect.
Yes, sir.
Both the statements what you have said, it is incorrect. Okay. The correct version is all analog signals are not continuous time signals. Okay. All analog signals, they are not continuous time signals. Okay. The definition of an analog signal is that the amplitude value, whether it is temperature, whether it is pressure, whatever you say, the analog signals, they can have amplitude ranging from minus infinity to infinity. Okay. So this can happen in continuous time signal. This can also happen in discrete time signals. So analog signals, they may be continuous time signal or they may be discrete time signals. Secondly, all continuous time signals, they are analog signals. This is correct in the sense because all the continuous, because if you see analog signals, they are continuous time signals, and the continuous time signals, they will meet all the requirement of the analog signal. Okay, the same thing I can tell with the discrete time signals. All discrete type signals, they are analog signals. Okay, so please keep this concept in mind. In the current day, basically what happens is that whatever the sensor output we get, we say, sir, this is continuous time signal, or this is basically an analog signal. We hardly use this continuous time signals. Okay, we basically use analog signal and digital signal. Once we work in the circuit domain, hardware domain, we say it is an analog signal, and as soon as we take it in the computer and work with the signal in the computer, we say it digital signals. So the use of this continuous time signal and discrete time signal, it has been significantly reduced, and this is the reason why most of the basic concepts, the basic concepts related to these continuous time and discrete time signals, these are not clear in the mind of many of the students. Okay, so I hope I have been able to make you understand uh, the difference between the analog signal and the continuous time signal. Okay, now suppose we take in what you call continuous time signal. In this first part, this is a continuous time signal, it is continuous in time. Okay, now suppose I multiply this signal, say this is xt multiplied by impulse or delta function. What is a delta function? Impulse function or a delta function? Impulse function and the delta function, it says that you have an impulse at t equals to 0, and this is the amplitude and this is the time. So at t equals to 0, you have an impulse, what do you call, impulse signal or the delta function, which is also called the delta function. So when you do this, so this impulse function delta t, it is having a magnitude of 1 at t equals to 0. So when you multiply it with this xt, you get a signal, say x of 0, xt equals to x of 0. That means whatever is the value of the signal at t equals to 0 in the continuous time domain, we get that value only at the instance of t equals to 0. Okay. Now, if we take this signal and at particular intervals, say capital Ts, so at particular intervals, at regular intervals, we get this impulse function. Okay, and it continues. So this function is regarded as impulse train. Okay, now consider this impulse train value being multiplied with the continuous time signal. So what happens? We will get the values. If you see this sampling second one, you will see that we are getting the values of the signal at those particular points where we are having this impulse functions or impulse signals, right? So this process is called sampling. So we will be getting some values at particular t values, say t, if capital T is equal to 1, then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. In this way, at particular time instances, we will get these values. Okay, and this signal, it is regarded as the discrete time signal, and the unit of the time it changes to small n. Okay. Now, when you have multiplied this continuous time signal with this impulse train, what is happening to the amplitude axis? The amplitude values, it can vary in the range of -infinity to infinity, same as that of the continuous time signal. Okay. Now, due to this reason, both the continuous times and the discrete time signals, they are analog signals. So this you have to keep this in mind. Okay. So what is the definition of a continuous time signal? Bookish definition: a signal xt is a continuous time signal if t is a continuous variable. Okay. If t is a discrete variable, that is xt is defined at discrete times, that means at say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or some other thing with some ts. Ts can be 0.2 also. Okay, ts can be 0.2 also. It can be ts equals to 0.002 also. So it all depends. But the main thing is that the t values, they should be available at discrete times. Okay, the xt is defined at discrete times, that means at some specific instances of time, then xt is a discrete time signal. Okay. Now, a discrete time signal xn, it can be defined in two ways. The first one is we can specify a rule for calculating the nth value of the sequence. So in this equation form, we can say xn equals to xn for n greater than equal to 0, half to the power n, and for n less than 0, it should be 0, or in this fashion we can write. Okay. The second thing is that we can also explicitly list the values of the sequence. For example, sequence which is being given by this equation. Xn equals to some values are there, and then you can see there is a pivot. Now this pivot, it indicates the origin value, that means n equals to 0 value. Yeah. Another important thing which I forgot to mention over here, the time domain in the continuous time signal, it is being represented with t, whereas in the case of discrete signal, it is represented with n. I hope many of you know. Okay. Now this pivot, it shows that where the origin is available. Okay. Now suppose over here you are having a series of numbers, say zeros left to the whatever the number is available, and also to the right, then we can rewrite this sequence in this form. Okay. Now suppose if you get a sequence xn equals to say 1, 3, 7, 5, 10. If you get a sequence and there is no pivot, that means that the pivot is present at the first instance. Okay. Now, there are certain sequences or certain arithmetic, what do you call, arithmetic functions which we can implement. The first one is the addition, second is the multiplication, and third is the multiplication with a constant. Okay. Herein, let me take an example. It would be easier for me. Okay. Suppose you have a signal xn, say 1, 3, 5, 4, 6. Okay. And we have say x1n and we have x2n, say 3, 2, 1, 4. Okay. Now in the first case the pivot is here and the second case the pivot is here. Now what about the addition of this signal? Say I want to find out yn equals to x1n plus x2n. I know many of you know, just for the sake of understanding of the students who are from the different background, I am just giving a gist. Okay. So first what we have to do, we have to match these pivots. So while I am matching this pivot, say 1, 3, 5, 4, 6, then 2, 3, 1, 4. Now I will go for the addition. Then this should be 0 then. 6, 7, 5, 10. So your yn equals to 1, 6, 7, 5, 10, and our pivots were here. That means our origin is here. Okay. Similarly, suppose I said to find out the product of x1n and x2n. Then again, I am writing it in black. So in the case of multiplication, 1 into 0, 0, 9, 10, 24. Where is the pivot? Pivot is here. So our answer would be 9, 10, 4, 24. Okay. Same. Then we want to multiply x1n with a scalar quantity. Say an equals to 4 into x1n. Just you multiply 4 with all the values. 4, 12, 20, 16, 24. This is our pivot value.
Sir,
Yes.
could you please repeat what the pivot function is?
Pardon?
The pivot of a function?
The pivot says the origin of the signal. Suppose if you have to plot this signal, so how will you plot this signal? Okay. Suppose this is your axis, then you are having 0, 1, 2. Similarly, you will be having -1, -2, -3, so on, right? Now, pivot is the origin. Okay. So
Yeah.
this 5, it would be here.
Okay.
Okay. Then you have 4.
Okay.
The value will be here, 4. Then we have 6. The value will be somewhere here. Similarly, 3 we will be having somewhere over here. Then 1 somewhere here. So pivot shows the origin, the value or the amplitude value at the origin. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Now I hope you have understood how we can do this mathematical operations over here. So suppose I give you another signal, say x3n, say 5724, and I don't give you pivot. That means the pivot is available at 5. Okay, the pivot is available at 5, and that means the signal is a right-handed signal. It is available on the positive time axis only. Okay, if there are no
Okay.
pivots given in a given sequence. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I hope I have been clear to all of you, right? Now coming to the analog and digital signals. See, the definition of the analog signal, it is
Yes,
a
sir.
signal whose amplitude can take an infinite number of values. Okay. Then digital signal, we have already talked about sampling, right? How we can convert an analog or not the analog, sorry, continuous time signal into a discrete time signal, and after the discretization we need to do the quantization. Okay, quantization is nothing but rounding off. Digital values or the digital signals, they have some specific values. Okay, suppose I have a scale where I start with 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and another maybe 10. In this case, I cannot have any value in between 0 and 2. Either I can have 0 or I can have 2. Any value, while but in the analog signal, what we said, the values can be in the range of minus infinity to infinity. So it may so happen that some of the values, they are within this range. Now when in between 0 and 2, okay, so when it is when any value is have or any amplitude is having a value in between the two levels, then it is rounded off. Okay, and this rounding off process, it is called quantization. Okay, so if it is 1, it will be rounded off to 2. It is 0.9, it will be rounded off to 0. So this is including some error. If you see, the original value was 1, it was rounded off to 2. The original value was 0.9, it has been rounded off to 0. So just only a difference of 0.1 volt, it has resulted in a gap of 2 volts in the digital signal. Okay. Now this type of error, it is called quantization error. Okay. And these levels which are available, they are called quantized level. Okay, they are called quantized level. Now, when we talk about this digitization of the signal, when we do this, we are basically fixing the analog values of the signal xt within the range of -v to +v. The reason being, when we deal with the any circuits, digital circuits and all these things, you will find that the digital circuits, the values can be clubbed within specific voltage levels, and in general it is negative to positive. So it may be plus minus 5 volt, it may be plus minus 10 volts, it may be plus minus 12 volts, it may be plus minus 15 volts, and so on. Okay, depending upon what type of digital architecture you are using. Now let us take a simple example that if we use a digital system where we are having plus minus 10 volts, our value, it is in the range of plus minus 10 volts. Now delta V, which is the interval between the two levels, these sub intervals which I talked in my previous cases. So these are, see, these are 0, 2. So these 0, 2, 4, 6, these are sub intervals. Okay. So what should be the delta V between these sub intervals? So we have to find out in this way. So 2V, V over here is 10. Suppose we want L sub intervals, that means L equals to 4 if we take, then we get 20 by 4. So we should be getting 5 number of sub intervals, and this delta 4 number of sub intervals, and the delta V would be 5 volts. So what I mean to say over here is that suppose you have a origin 0 volt, then from this 0 volt you will be having 5 volt, 10 volt, minus 5 volt, minus 10 volt. Now what is happening over here? L sub intervals 1, 2, 3, 4. We are having 4 number of sub intervals. Suppose I say no, I want to break it into 5 sub intervals. So what should we get? In that case, it will be 2 into 10 divided by 5 equals to 20 by 5 equals to 4. Okay. Again, let me draw over here this line 0. I am drawing it in the on the right hand side. There is a specific reason for that. Okay, let me use another color, maybe another color, it will help you. Yeah, so if I want to break it in 5 sub intervals, our delta V is 4, so minus 10, then what will be having? Minus 6, minus 2, 2, 6, 10. Okay. So can you tell me what has happened over here? Can you tell me what has happened over here? Anyone? Can you listen to me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what is happening? So is there any fallacy you can see? The fallacy is over here that 0 volt, which is usually taken as the reference of a circuit, it is missing. So where will you take it? 2 volt. So that is the problem when you try to go for the division of the these levels when you are digitizing the signal. And as a matter of fact, this L value should be having a value of 2 to the power n. Okay, where n, it can vary from 0 to infinity. Okay, so what will happen? We will be having 2, 4, 6, 8. In this way it will go. Okay, so for n equal to 1, 2, 2 means the value of n, it will say you the number of bits. So if the value of n is 1, then it is a 1 bit signal. If it is 2, it is a 2 bit signal. If it is a 3, it is a 3 bit signal. So if you are having a 3 bit signal, that means L equals to 2 to the power 3, which is equal to 8. Okay, that means you will be having 8 number of sub intervals. Am I clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So moving to the next type. The next type of signal is real and complex signals. Real signals, any signals which is having real numbers only, that is called real signals. So whatever signals we have discussed, xt or xn equals to say 1, 3, 5, 4, something like this. So these are real signals. In the case if we have some xn values, say 1 plus j, 3, 5, 4, since we are having one complex component over here, this signal is regarded as the complex signal. Okay, and this majorly happens when we take the Fourier transform of a given signal. So when you do the Fourier transform, you get x omega. So xt is transformed to x omega. Now this x omega, it is in the complex domain. Okay, hence the Fourier transformed signals, they are regarded as the complex domain signals. Deterministic and random signals. In deterministic signals, these signals can be represented in the mathematical form. Say xn is equal to a to the power n, okay, or xn equals to a plus jb, okay. So the signals can be described with the help of a mathematical formula. On the other hand, random signals, they cannot be represented with any mathematical equations, and those signals are regarded as the random signals. Instead of representing them with the mathematical equation, we use some probabilistic descriptions such as mean squared values, okay, then kurtosis and all these things. So if we use these things, then it is called a random signal. Okay, then even in odd signals, it is a very interesting point. If you see, if xt is equal to x of minus t, then it is an even signal. Okay, that means few moments back what I said, t or n, it can be positive if the amplitude values are on the right hand side, I have taken and yeah. And T or N can be negative if we are in the left hand side. Okay. Now what it is saying is that it is saying that the amplitude values of the signal in the right hand side and in the left hand side, they must be equal. Okay. So suppose I have a signal component, it is like this, then in the negative half I will be having a mirror image of these amplitude values. Okay, that means same, the value of x of -1 should be equals to x of 1, x of -2 it should be equals to x of 2. Okay. On the contrary, when we talk about the odd signals, herein what we do, what we get is that if we have a signal in the right hand domain, in the left hand domain we will be having a negative mirror image. So negative value of the mirror image. Okay. So that means the value of at x of -1 should be equals to minus of x of 1. So if you see, if I get it over here, say 1 minus 1, so the value of the signal at n equals to 1 is, say for example it is 4, then at x equal to -1 it should be -4. Okay. So depending upon this we can say whether a signal is an even signal or an odd signal. Now this is one of the example, classical example. Say for example we take xn equals to 2 pi n, and we all know it is a sinusoidal signal and we are having like this. Now if you see diagrammatically, this value in the positive half are equals to these values in the negative half in the left hand side. Similarly, if you look into the positive half of the left hand side, it comes at a negative value in the right hand side. So this is an odd signal. Okay, because x of n equals to minus of x of minus n. Okay, mathematically if you see, I have given x of minus n, it is equal to sine of minus of 2 pi n. Now from our trigonometric knowledge we can say this value is nothing but minus of sine 2 pi n, which is nothing but minus of xn. So this is an odd signal. Similarly, we can say that cos of 2 pi n, it is an even signal. Okay. Similarly, another important thing to see over here, if you are given with any signal component, these signal components can be broken down into even signal component and the odd signal component. So any signal, they are basically constituted of the even signal plus the odd signal. Okay. Now the even signal, it is given by half of xn plus x of minus n. Okay, where this even signal, and yeah, and the odd signal, it is given by half of x of n minus of x of minus n. Okay, so when we have these, so from there we can calculate the xen, we can calculate the xon, and from here we can plot these values a and b, and then if you want to plot this what you call this original signal, it is something like this. Okay, so k by 2, this a is this a component is this one, b component is this one. Okay, Now from there we can draw this signal by adding up A and B. Okay, and if you this is the A plus B, yeah, this is A plus B, and this is this K of minus 2 if we go for this one XON, odd signal. This is for the even signal, this is for the odd signal. Okay, then similarly we can go for this one for the signal xn equals to 0 for n less than 0 and 2 for n greater than equal to 0. Okay, so if we want to what do you call, break this over here, x of same even is half of xn plus x of minus n. Okay, so xn is, so this one, see, and x of minus n is basically the reverse of this one. Okay, so it will be k by 2 plus k by 2. So k over here is 2 by 2 plus 2 by 2, 1 plus 1. At the origin we will be having 1 plus 1 0, and here see one of the k values it will be 0, so it will be 1 because we will be left with the other one. Similarly on the right hand side, in this case if you add up these two, so on the right hand side if you see there is nothing on there is this value, herein there is no value, herein you are having the plus values, then the other half they starts getting added up, so this is your even component. Similarly we can find out the odd component. Okay, so the same thing, even odd signals. Okay, so odd and even, how we can break it, I just told you, even part, odd part. Okay, yeah, so this is another example which I would like to share. So suppose you are having this xn, this will clear up your understanding. So here have these values and the origin is at 4. Okay, when we plot x of minus n, what happens? Across this pivot these values changes. So this one it would come on the right hand side, these two it will go on the left hand side, and so on. It will happen for all the values. Okay, so we are basically flipping across the pivot. Okay, now you have got xn, you have got x of minus n, so x of n plus x of minus n, you are add up these values, I have already told you. Then from there if you divide this value with half, you get the xen. Similarly for getting the odd signal of the component, xn minus of x of minus n, you get this, and then if you divide this fraction with half, multiply this with half, then you get these values. And again if you add up xc n plus xon, then if you add up these two values you will get back to the original signal. That means xn, it consists of both even components and odd components. One important thing is that note that the product of two even signals or of two odd signals is an even signal, and that the product of an even signal and an odd signal is always an odd signal. Please keep this in mind. Okay, two even signals or two odd signals, it will give you an even signal, whereas one even signal and one odd signal, it will always give you an odd signal. Okay, periodic and aperiodic signals. So we all know the simple case of the periodic signal is of a sinusoidal signal. So if for any particular value of t, which is basically the time period, the signal repeats itself, then it is a periodic signal. Okay, say for example, in this sinusoidal signal, if you take this t in period, if I move this origin by a period of t, then again see I will be getting the same signal. Hence this is a periodic signal. Sinusoidal signals, they are periodic signals. So it continues in the left and also in the right. Okay, if it does not follows the above equation, that means this equation, then it is an aperiodic signal. So this is a periodic signal, example of a periodic signal. Okay. So yeah, let me finish. Let me cover this and then I will finish. So if I say to find out whether a signal is a periodic signal or a periodic signal, then you have to find out. I will be mainly discussing about the discrete time signals, okay, because the digital signals, they are discrete time signals, so I am not going into the continuous time signal numericals. Okay, so this n, it is equal to 2 pi by omega naught m, which is basically a rational number. It should be a rational number. If it is a rational number, then you can say that the signal is a periodic signal. Xn equals to e to the power 2 pi n, and we know that this pi, it is nothing but this omega naught. So if we change and replace this value over here in the omega naught, we get 2m, and considering if m is equal to 1, your capital N, it comes out to be 2, which is a rational number. Hence this signal x equals to e to the power j pi n, it is a periodic signal. Similarly, if I give you a signal xn equals to cos of n by 8 minus pi. Now this n by 8, it can be written as n into 1 by 8. Okay, so n equals to 2 pi. There is a mistake, 1 by 8 m. So if you see, the pi remains. The presence of the pi, it makes this n, capital N, as a non-rational number. Hence this signal, it is a aperiodic signal. Then coming to this, xn equals to sine square pi by 4 n. So we can break this signal into xn equals to half minus 1 by 2 cos of 2 pi by 4 n. I know how, I hope all of you know how we got to this equation. Now taking this x1n, this half as x1n and x2 as this thing, half of cos 2 pi by 4 n as x2n, we will check the periodicity independently. N1, by doing so, we get n1 equals to 1 and n2, it comes out to be 4. Now we will put n1 by n2, it is equal to 1 by 4. Then we will find out n1 into 4, multiply these things. So 4n1 is equal to n2 is equal to n. Then we will be taking the LCM of this n1 and n2, the coefficients of the L1 and n2. So the LCM comes out to be 4. That means n is a rational number. So this signal, it is a periodic signal. Okay. Similarly, if I give you this equation, by going through in a similar way, we get capital N is equal to 12. Okay. Now herein we see that capital N is basically a rational number, so we can say that it is a periodic signal. Okay, so we will stop over here today.